Wyoming SportsLine continues tonight. I'm Jared Anderson. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, if it's not the busiest basketball weekend in the States, then it's certainly one of the busiest. We continue the basketball discussion by looking at the Wyoming Cowboys. Now they'll wrap up the regular season tomorrow night against the New Mexico Lobos. And for a preview of that game, we go to Albuquerque. On the phone now is Michael Carlyle. Michael joins us from AM 610 KNML, otherwise known as the Sports Animal. Michael, Albuquerque is a great basketball town. You guys are below 500 in conference play right now. What's the frustration level like with Lobo fans?
Oh, it's incredibly frustrating. They haven't had a losing streak this long since the 52-53 season, I believe. And, it really goes back to the loss up there against you guys back on January 24th, a 63-62 overtime loss that the Lobos felt like they had won in regulation, felt like they had it won again in overtime, and didn't work out that way. And since that game, this has been a completely different team. It's a team that lacks confidence. It's a young team. They're only two seniors, and they just seem out of sorts now.
Is it just that inexperience, or are there other factors why the Lobos are on this losing skid?
Well, the inexperience certainly plays into it. Also the injuries. Cullen Neal goes down early in the season, and say what you want about Cullen Neal, but that drastically changed the Lobos' offense. They really don't have a true outside shooter now. I suppose you could, say Hugh Greenwood, but when he's your only legitimate threat, teams quickly figured out they can pack the inside and dare the Lobos to beat you from the outside. And, that's where losing a guy like Cullen Neal comes in. He would kind of stretch out the defense a bit, and, the Lobos could at least stay competitive. But without him in the lineup, it didn't take long for teams to figure out what the method was to stop the Lobos, and that's just packing the inside and let them shoot from the outside.
Certainly get why Albuquerque fans may be frustrated with this team because New Mexico has such a high standard of winning. But I think, I know Wyoming fans, and I think the rest of the conference would be terrified to meet up with you guys at the conference tournament. Are Lobo fans still optimistic about what they can do this March?
There's some optimism, but as the losses continue to mount, and the Lobos are now at 8 in a row, the season finale is Saturday evening. To be honest, I think a lot of the hope is gone. That being said, if they can get a victory, get hot, get a little momentum headed into Vegas, that they won the last 3 conference tournaments. So Lobo fans are certainly aware that, magic can happen in Vegas for New Mexico.
You guys just dominate fan attendance at the Mountain West Conference Tournament in Las Vegas. Will we see as many Lobos out there with this team a little bit down this year?
It might be down just a little, but probably not a lot. I think there will still be a ton of New Mexico fans out there in Vegas for the tournament, because keep in mind that the Lobo women are doing very well this season, so a lot of people will travel for that and support both teams. So yes, to answer your question, I think there'll be a lot of Lobo fans out in Vegas next week.
Talking with Michael Carlyle again from AM 610 KNML. He's the host of the Sports Bar nightly from 3 to 7 on the Sports Animal in Albuquerque. Michael, great game in Laramie when the Lobos came up here, went to overtime, Pokes somehow sneak out a victory. Do the Lobos have revenge on their mind Saturday, or is the bigger story senior night?
I think it's two things. It's senior night. The Lobos want to send Hugh Greenwood and Deshaun Delaney out with victories. It's also just trying to get some momentum, some consistency from themselves. At this point in time, having lost 8 in a row, that this team is just trying to regain its identity and get some confidence, never mind trying to get revenge for earlier in the season.
Is there much talk about this Wyoming team in New Mexico? Your community is always so plugged in on what's going on in the Mountain West Conference. What is the word like on this Wyoming team?
Oh, well, look, I think any talk about Wyoming certainly starts with Larry Nance Jr. You guys have had a really good season out there. Obviously, Nance goes out for a few games with the mono. He's back now. Look, the Lobo fans are very, a smart fan base. They definitely are aware of the great teams and the great players in the conference, and Larry Nance Jr. is certainly at the top as far as the great players in this league.
What do the Lobos have to do well to be successful on Saturday night? What should Wyoming try to eliminate from the resume of the Lobos if they want to win?
It's Hugh Greenwood getting off to a good start offensively. It's also the Lobos getting off to a good start offensively and keeping the opponent, in this case Wyoming, from getting off to a good start. During this 8-game losing streak, the Lobos have fallen behind by 10 or more points in the first half in 5 of those games. They've done it 10 times on the season. The key for the Lobos is to get off to a good start, keep the opponent from getting off to a good start, and then going from there. But the Lobos seem to be their own worst enemy, especially early in the games. That for the most part, they've been able to fall back into games, but once you put yourself in such a hole like that, you exude all that energy trying to come back, and by the time you actually get close again, you've worn yourself out.
From a Mountain West rivalry kind of perspective, it feels like Hugh Greenwood's been on your team for about 8 years. What's the fan base going to be like for senior night for Hugh and I believe Deshaun Delaney, right?
Yeah, but for both those guys. Yes, this is Delaney's second year with the team. He came in via the junior college route. But yeah, Hugh Greenwood is definitely a fan favorite. Not only with his play, Hugh's never lost a game in the Mountain West tournament. He's in tournament play. But the fans here love him. He also does a lot of stuff. His mom suffers from breast cancer. He has his Pink Pack Foundation. He does a lot of stuff in the community to raise money and awareness for breast cancer. So he is very beloved here, and it's going to be a special night in the pit on Saturday. Final question for you, Michael. You've had an opportunity to watch everybody in the conference. Who's going to go to Vegas and win? I think the team playing the best right now is probably Boise State. If you look at the body of work for the entire season, it's probably San Diego State. I'm very high on Colorado State. And you guys, Wyoming, I think, has had a phenomenal season. Now, obviously, going a few games without Larry Nance is hurt, but now that he's back, if he can get back into form, headed into Vegas, I think Wyoming has as good a shot as anybody. But if you're putting me on the spot, I'd say probably Boise State right now. Michael, how often do out-of-market DJs ask you about Breaking Bad? Pretty much every conversation. All right, I guess I won't go there with you then. We'll save that for off the air, but I am enjoying Better Call Saul right now. Yes, it may wind up being better than Breaking Bad when it's all said and done. That is going to be tough. Real quick, Michael, how can we find out more info about you and the Lobos online? Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Real Mike Carlyle. The Lobo website is golobos.com. He's Michael Carlyle from KNML Albuquerque. We'll talk some 1A, 2A state basketball and get you a few of today's results after this.